What if everything we've been taught about history is missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Picture this thousands of years ago, long before the age of smartphones, satellites, or even electricity. Ancient civilizations were crafting technologies so sophisticated that they still leave experts scratching their heads today. These weren't just simple tools or lucky accidents. They were deliberate, intricate creations that defy the timeline of human progress as we know it. From devices that predicted celestial events with pinpoint accuracy to structures built with precision that modern engineers struggle to replicate, these ancient innovations weren't just ahead of their time, they were centuries, even millennia, ahead. Think about the last time you marveled at a cutting-edge gadget or a futuristic invention. Now imagine stumbling upon something just as advanced, but buried deep in the sands of time, crafted by hands that worked without blueprints, without computers, without the scientific knowledge we take for granted. How did they do it? What secrets did they possess that we've yet to rediscover? These questions aren't just about curiosity. They're about rewriting the story of human ingenuity. Because when you look closely at these ancient technologies, you start to realize that our ancestors might have known far more than we've ever given them credit for. That's exactly what we're about to explore together. Over the course of this journey, we'll uncover 28 astonishing examples of ancient technologies that were too advanced for their time. Some were lost to history, only to be stumbled upon by baffled archaeologists centuries later. Others were so ahead of their era that they were dismissed as myths until evidence proved otherwise. Each one of these discoveries challenges our understanding of the past, blurring the line between legend and reality. So if you're ready to see history in a whole new light, to question what you thought you knew, and to stand in awe of the brilliance of those who came before us, then you're in the right place. This isn't just a video, it's a window into a world of forgotten genius. Let's begin. Buried beneath the sea for over 2,000 years, the Antikythera Mechanism is a relic that shatters everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. When divers first pulled this corroded bronze artifact from a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, they had no idea they were holding one of history's most baffling inventions. At first glance, it looked like a lump of oxidized metal, but once researchers painstakingly cleaned and examined it, they uncovered a labyrinth of interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions, a mechanical masterpiece unlike anything else from its time. Dating back to around 100 BC, this device wasn't just a simple tool. It was a precision instrument capable of predicting solar eclipses, tracking the positions of the sun, moon, and planets, and even marking the dates of ancient athletic games like the Olympics. The level of sophistication is mind-boggling. The mechanism's gears were designed with teeth so perfectly cut that they could simulate the irregular motions of the moon, accounting for its elliptical orbit, a concept formalized by astronomer Johannes Kepler nearly 2,000 years later. What's even more astonishing is that nothing close to this complexity would reappear in the historical record until the astronomical clocks of medieval Europe, more than a millennium after the Antikythera Mechanism was lost to the sea. So how did the ancient Greeks, with no known industrial infrastructure or advanced manufacturing techniques, create something that rivals the mechanical calculators of the 19th century? Scholars still debate its origins, but one thing is clear: this wasn't a one-off experiment. The craftsmanship suggests a tradition of engineering knowledge that has otherwise vanished from history. Some believe it was the work of legendary minds like Archimedes or Hipparchus, whose writings hint at mechanical innovations now lost to time. Others speculate it was part of a larger scientific tradition, perhaps used in temples or by elite scholars to map the heavens. Whatever its purpose, the Antikythera Mechanism forces us to reconsider the technological capabilities of the ancient world. If they could build this, what else did they know that we're only just beginning to uncover? While the Antikythera Mechanism reveals ancient mastery of mechanics, another discovery proves they may have harnessed something even more surprising: electricity. In the ruins of Mesopotamia, archaeologists uncovered a set of peculiar clay jars dating back nearly 2,000 years. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary storage vessels, but inside lay a tantalizing secret: copper cylinders wrapped around iron rods, all sealed with an asphalt-like substance. When scientists reconstructed these artifacts, now known as the Baghdad Batteries, they made a startling realization. Filled with an acidic solution like vinegar or grape juice, these jars could produce a small but measurable electric charge, enough to power a simple circuit. The implications are staggering. If these were indeed primitive batteries, they predate Alessandro Volta's invention of the modern battery in the early 19th century by more than a millennium. But what were they used for? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, a process where a thin layer of metal, like gold, is bonded to another surface using electricity. Artifacts from the same era show gilded objects with coatings too precise for traditional methods, hinting at possible electrochemical techniques. Others propose medical applications, as ancient texts describe using electric fish to numb pain, implying an early understanding of electricity's effects on the body. Yet the biggest mystery isn't how they worked, it's why such a groundbreaking invention seemingly vanished from history. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism, which was lost to a shipwreck, these batteries were found in a region teeming with scholars and record keepers. Did their purpose remain a guarded secret known only to a select few, or were they dismissed as curiosities, their potential overlooked until modernity rediscovered the power of electricity? Some even speculate they had ritual uses, perhaps creating small shocks during religious ceremonies to mimic divine energy. What makes the Baghdad batteries so fascinating isn't just their functionality, but the questions they raise about innovation. How many other ancient technologies were abandoned or forgotten because their full potential wasn't understood in their time? These humble clay jars force us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient science and wonder what other electrical secrets might still lie buried, waiting to be unearthed. Among the most legendary weapons ever crafted, the swords of Damascus steel stand apart, not just as tools of war, but as marvels of ancient metallurgy that have never been perfectly replicated. Forged between the 3rd and 17th centuries, these blades were so sharp they could split a hair lengthwise, so strong they could cleave through armor without losing their edge, and so flexible they would bend without breaking. Warriors from the Crusades to the Mughal Empire spoke of them in awe, and even today, modern scientists are still unraveling the secrets behind their extraordinary properties. What made these blades so special? The answer lies in their unique composition, a high-carbon steel known as woots, mined from specific regions of India and Sri Lanka. But the raw material was just the beginning. Ancient blacksmiths transformed this steel through a forging process so intricate that its exact steps have been lost to time. When examined under modern microscopes, Damascus steel reveals a mesmerizing pattern of swirling bands, not just decorative but functional, a nanostructure of carbon nanotubes and carbide nanowires that gave the blades their legendary toughness and razor-sharp edge. The mystery deepens when you consider the tools available at the time. Without precision, temperature controls, or advanced metallurgical knowledge, how did these craftsmen achieve such perfection? Some researchers believe the key was an alchemical process, carefully guarded by master smiths. Historical accounts mention quenching the blades in mysterious liquids, perhaps plant extracts or animal fluids, that may have altered the steel's molecular structure. Others suggest the secret lay in the slow cooling process, allowing the metal to form its distinctive crystalline patterns naturally. Even more intriguing is the fact that by the 18th century, the technique had vanished. Was it a victim of lost trade routes, as sources of high-quality wood steel dried up, or did the knowledge die with the craftsmen who refused to pass it on? Modern attempts to recreate Damascus steel have come close, but none capture the full brilliance of the originals. Some blades today are etched with acid to mimic the watery patterns, but they lack the underlying strength. It's a humbling reminder that ancient artisans achieved feats we still can't fully explain, blurring the line between science, art, and what some might even call magic. What's left is a puzzle wrapped in folded steel, a testament to human ingenuity that challenges our assumptions about progress. If they could craft such wonders centuries ago, what else might they have known, and what other secrets are still waiting, hidden in the artifacts we've yet to understand? Standing as the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, the Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just impress with its size, it baffles with its precision. Built over 4,600 years ago, this monumental structure aligns with true north to within a fraction of a degree, a feat modern architects would struggle to replicate without satellites or laser tools. But it's not just the pyramid's orientation that defies logic. Each of its estimated 2.3 million limestone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, fits together with joints so tight that even today, you can't slip a razor blade between them. No mortar was used, yet the stones remain locked in place after millennia, resisting earthquakes, erosion, and human interference. How did ancient builders achieve such perfection with nothing but copper tools and rudimentary measuring devices? One theory points to an advanced understanding of surveying, possibly using the stars or shadows to map alignments with celestial precision. Another more controversial idea suggests the use of sound or vibration techniques. Ancient texts speak of levitation or acoustic methods to move massive stones, though no physical evidence confirms this. What we do know is that the pyramid's internal chambers amplify sound in ways that seem intentional. The king's chamber, for instance, resonates at frequencies that create eerie echoes, almost as if the space was designed to enhance specific vibrations. Modern experiments show that certain tones reverberate through the granite walls, leading some researchers to speculate about ritualistic or even energy-harnessing purposes. Even more puzzling is the pyramid's mathematical sophistication. The ratio of its height to its perimeter mirrors the relationship between the radius and circumference of a circle, an advanced geometric concept that shouldn't have been formalized until thousands of years later. Some argue these features are coincidental, the natural result of trial and error. But when you consider the pyramid's alignment with Orion's belt, its precise cardinal orientation, and the acoustic properties baked into its design, it's hard to dismiss the possibility of deliberate, sophisticated planning. The Great Pyramid forces us to ask, was this just a tomb or something far more profound? Could it have been an ancient power plant, an astronomical observatory, or even a repository of lost knowledge encoded in stone? While mainstream archaeology leans toward the tomb theory, the sheer precision of its construction suggests a level of technical mastery that rivals or even surpasses our modern capabilities. If this was the work of a civilization without wheels, pulleys, or iron tools, what other secrets might they have taken to the grave? Every stone in the pyramid whispers a challenge to our understanding of history, daring us to reconsider what ancient minds were truly capable of. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of Peru's arid plateau, the Nazca Lines are one of archaeology's most visually stunning and perplexing mysteries. Created between 500 BC and 500 CE, these enormous geoglyphs weren't just scratched into the earth, they were meticulously engineered. By removing the dark, iron-rich surface rocks to reveal the lighter sand beneath, the Nazca people crafted designs so vast they can only be fully appreciated from hundreds of feet in the air. From colossal spiders and hummingbirds to spirals and trapezoids, these figures stretch up to 1,200 feet long, their lines remaining razor-sharp despite centuries of wind and erosion. The sheer scale raises an obvious question: how did a culture without flight or even the concept of aerial perspective design and execute such precise artwork? Some researchers propose the use of simple grids or ropes to scale up smaller sketches, but the accuracy is astonishing. One hummingbird's beak aligns perfectly with the spot where the sun rises during the winter solstice, while other shapes mirror constellations visible in the Nazca night sky. This has led to theories that the lines functioned as a massive astronomical calendar, tracking celestial events critical to agriculture or rituals, but not all explanations are so grounded. The line's visibility only from above has fueled speculation about ancient contact with advanced beings, whether gods or extraterrestrials. Could these have been landing strips or signals for otherworldly visitors? While mainstream archaeology dismisses this as fantasy, it's hard to ignore the eerie precision of designs like the astronaut, a humanoid figure carved into a hillside, seemingly gazing at the sky. Perhaps the most compelling theory ties the lines to water, a scarce resource in the desert. Some geoglyphs follow underground aquifers, and the trapezoidal shapes may have funneled ceremonial offerings to deities believed to control rainfall. Recent discoveries of wooden posts and pottery along the lines suggest they were walked during rituals, turning the desert into a sacred pathway. What makes the Nazca lines so captivating isn't just their mystery, it's the audacity of their creation. These weren't hidden symbols, they were a monumental, intentional display meant to endure. Whether as a celestial map, a plea to the gods, or something beyond our understanding, they challenge us to rethink the limits of ancient innovation. If a culture could transform an entire landscape into art without ever seeing it from above, what else might they have known that we're only beginning to uncover? While modern concrete often deteriorates within decades, the ancient Romans built structures that have weathered 2,000 years of earthquakes, wars, and erosion, and some are still standing stronger than ever. Take the Pantheon in Rome, with its unreinforced dome spanning 142 feet, the largest of its kind until the modern era. Unlike today's concrete, which cracks and crumbles as water seeps in, Roman concrete seems to defy time. The secret, a recipe so advanced that scientists only cracked its code in the last decade. At the heart of this ancient innovation was a bold choice: mixing volcanic ash from the Pozzuoli region with lime and seawater. Modern engineers would shudder at the idea seawater is notorious for corroding steel reinforcements in contemporary concrete, but for the Romans it was the key to longevity. When researchers examined samples under microscopes, they found something astonishing. Over time, seawater reacting with the volcanic ash forms rare minerals like aluminous tobamorite, which actually fill in cracks as they form. In other words, Roman concrete heals itself. This self-repairing property wasn't just luck, it was chemistry mastered centuries before the periodic table existed. The volcanic ash, rich in silica and alumina, created a pozzolanic reaction when mixed with lime, producing a binder far more durable than modern Portland cement. And unlike today's concrete, which emits massive amounts of carbon dioxide during production, Roman concrete was environmentally friendly, even curing faster in seawater, making it ideal for harbors and coastal structures. Some Roman piers, submerged for millennia, are now harder than when they were first poured. So why did this revolutionary formula disappear? The answer may lie in the collapse of the Roman Empire itself. As infrastructure projects halted and centralized knowledge fragmented, the precise techniques and material sources were lost. Medieval builders reverted to simpler methods, and the rediscovery of pozzolanic concrete didn't occur until the 18th century, ironically, when engineers studied Roman ruins to understand their resilience. Even then, the full mechanism of self-healing remained a mystery until modern nanotechnology revealed the microscopic structures at work. Today, scientists are racing to replicate this ancient technology for the future. Imagine bridges that repair their own cracks or seawalls that grow stronger with time. The irony is profound. One of the most advanced building materials of the 21st century might be a rediscovered relic from antiquity. The Romans didn't just build for their era, they built for eternity. And as we unravel their secrets, we're left to wonder, how many other forgotten innovations might still hold the answers to our modern challenges? Hidden away in a vault at Yale University lies a book so enigmatic that even the world's top codebreakers, including those who cracked Nazi ciphers during World War II, have thrown up their hands in defeat. Known as the Voińiș Manuscript, this 240-page artifact from the early 15th century is written in a script unlike anything else in recorded history. Its pages are filled with looping, alien characters arranged in patterns that resemble language yet resist all attempts at translation. But the text is only half the mystery. The manuscript's vivid illustrations plunge viewers into a surreal world. Plants with no known earthly counterparts, naked women bathing in interconnected green tubes, and celestial diagrams featuring stars arranged in formations unrecognizable to modern astronomy. What makes the Voińiș manuscript so maddening isn't just its indecipherable text, it's the eerie coherence of its structure. Advanced computer analysis reveals that the writing follows linguistic rules, with word frequency and sentence patterns matching natural languages. Yet every effort to link it to known dialects, from medieval Latin to forgotten Arabic codes, has failed. Some researchers argue it's an elaborate cipher, while others propose it's a constructed language, invented to conceal secret knowledge. The most tantalizing clue: certain plant illustrations resemble species from the Americas, a continent Europeans hadn't officially discovered when the book was penned. Could this suggest pre-Columbian contact, or is it pure coincidence? Theories about its purpose range from plausible to fantastical. Medieval medical texts often mixed astrology with herbal remedies, and the manuscript's botanical pages might depict lost medicinal plants. Alchemists of the era wrote in code to protect their secrets, fueling speculation that the book holds formulas for the philosopher's stone or other arcane processes. More controversially, a few fringe scholars suggest extraterrestrial origins, pointing to the otherworldly diagrams as evidence of advanced astronomical knowledge. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the manuscript was meant to be incomprehensible, a crafted puzzle designed to tease, not teach. Centuries of scrutiny have yielded only one certainty: the Voińiș manuscript refuses to give up its secrets. Even artificial intelligence trained on hundreds of languages hits a wall when analyzing its text. This isn't just a locked book, it's a vault with no keyhole. And as long as it remains unread, it stands as a humbling reminder that some ancient mysteries might never be solved. In a world where we've decoded genomes and sent probes to Mars, the fact that a 600-year-old manuscript can still defy understanding is a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. What truths lie buried in those cryptic pages? For now, they remain as inscrutable as the day the ink dried. Buried in the ashes of a Minoan palace on the island of Crete lies a small clay disk that has defied understanding for over a century. Discovered in 1908 amid the ruins of Phistos, this palm-sized artifact dates back to around 1700 BCE, centuries before the Trojan War or the rise of classical Greece. At first glance, it seems unremarkable, just 6 inches across, baked from simple clay, but turn it over and you're met with something extraordinary. Both sides are covered in a spiral of 45 distinct symbols pressed into the clay with stamps, a form of movable type predating Gutenberg's printing press by more than 3,000 years. These aren't random marks. The symbols repeat in groups, suggesting words or phrases, arranged in a sequence that implies deliberate meaning. Yet despite decades of analysis by linguists, archaeologists, and even cryptographers, no one has cracked its code. Part of the challenge lies in its uniqueness. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, which were found in abundance across multiple artifacts, the Phistos disk stands alone. No other examples of its script have ever been discovered, leaving scholars without a key to compare or contextualize its symbols. Even the Minoans' later linear, a script used for administrative records, shares no clear connection. Theories about its purpose range from the practical to the profound. Some argue it's a religious hymn, its spiral mirroring the labyrinthine dances of Minoan rituals. Others propose it's an early calendar, tracking lunar cycles or agricultural seasons. The symbols include images like shields, birds, and flowers, elements that might represent months or deities. More whimsical suggestions paint it as a board game, with a spiral path guiding players through a symbolic journey, but without a bilingual inscription like the Rosetta Stone, which unlocked Egyptian hieroglyphs. These interpretations remain speculative. What makes the disk truly revolutionary isn't just its undeciphered message, it's the technology behind it. The use of individual stamps implies a level of sophistication previously unimagined for the Bronze Age. Each symbol was crafted as a reusable tool, a concept that wouldn't become widespread until the invention of modern printing. Why, then, did this innovation vanish? Was it a failed experiment, or did the eruption of Thera, the cataclysmic volcano that may have doomed the Minoans, bury its secrets along with the civilization that created it? The Phistos disk is more than a linguistic puzzle. It's a snapshot of a lost world's ingenuity. Every attempt to decode it forces us to confront how little we truly know about the Minoans, a culture that thrived while much of Europe was still in the Stone Age. Perhaps the disk was never meant to be read by future generations. Perhaps its meaning was sacred, known only to a select few. Or perhaps one day, a second disk will emerge from the earth, offering the clues we so desperately need. Until then, it remains one of history's most tantalizing whispers, a message sent across time, still waiting for someone to listen. Imagine a weapon so fearsome that just the sight of it could make entire fleets retreat in panic, a liquid fire that clung to ships, burned on water, and defied every attempt to extinguish it. This wasn't the stuff of myth. It was Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's most devastating secret. First deployed in the 7th century, this incendiary compound gave Constantinople an unmatched naval advantage for nearly 800 years, turning the tide of countless battles against invading Arab fleets and other enemies. Historical accounts describe jets of flame erupting from bronze tubes mounted on Byzantine ships, igniting enemy vessels with a fire so relentless it seemed almost supernatural. What made Greek fire so terrifying wasn't just its flammability, it was its defiance of physics. Unlike ordinary fire, it couldn't be doused with water. In fact, water only made it burn fiercer. Some sources claim it even ignited on contact with waves, creating walls of flame that trapped adversaries in an inescapable inferno. The exact recipe remains one of history's best-kept secrets, lost when the Byzantine Empire fell in the 15th century. But clues from ancient texts and modern experiments suggest it was a volatile mixture of quicklime, petroleum, and possibly other ingredients like sulfur or saltpeter. Some researchers speculate it contained a form of naphtha, a flammable liquid distilled from crude oil, which the Byzantines may have sourced from natural seeps in the Black Sea region. The delivery system was equally ingenious. Byzantine ships used pressurized nozzles, possibly powered by hand pumps or bellows, to spray the liquid over distances, a primitive flamethrower centuries ahead of its time. The psychological impact was as potent as the physical damage. Enemy sailors, witnessing flames that water couldn't quench, often abandoned their ships in terror before the fire even reached them. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a masterclass in warfare, blending chemistry, engineering, and intimidation. Modern attempts to recreate Greek fire have fallen short. Without the original formula, scientists can only guess at the precise combination of ingredients and techniques. Some believe the Byzantines exploited a chemical reaction we've yet to rediscover, while others argue the secret lay in a now extinct natural resource. The most compelling theory, the true power of Greek fire, wasn't just in its composition, but in its deployment, a tightly controlled military secret passed down through generations of artisans and guarded with lethal seriousness. The loss of this technology is a stark reminder of how easily knowledge can vanish. For centuries, Greek fire was the ultimate deterrent, a symbol of Byzantine ingenuity that held empires at bay. Its disappearance leaves us with a haunting question. What other revolutionary technologies have been lost to time, their secrets buried with the civilizations that mastered them? In the case of Greek fire, we're left with echoes of its brilliance and the sobering realization that some ancient advancements may never be fully understood again. Rising 23 feet above the ground in the heart of Delhi, a single iron pillar has defied one of nature's most relentless forces, time itself. For over 1,600 years, this 7-ton marvel has stood exposed to scorching heat, torrential rains, and the pollution of a modern metropolis, yet its surface remains untouched by rust. While modern steel structures require constant maintenance and protective coatings to resist corrosion, the iron pillar of Delhi scoffs at the very idea of decay, its smooth, dark surface still bearing inscriptions from the 4th century as crisp as the day they were carved. What makes this pillar so extraordinary isn't just its longevity but the mystery of its composition. Modern metallurgists analyzing the iron discovered an astonishing secret. The metal contains an unusually high amount of phosphorus, nearly 1%, combined with a near-perfect balance of iron and carbon. This precise recipe creates a thin, invisible layer of iron-hydrogen phosphate, a protective film that actively resists rust formation. The kicker: this level of metallurgical precision wasn't replicated in the West until the 20th century, when scientists developed stainless steel. Yet here it is, in a structure forged centuries before the scientific method was even formalized. How did ancient Indian blacksmiths achieve such a feat without spectrometers or chemical labs? The answer may lie in their innovative smelting techniques. Historical accounts suggest they used a unique method of mixing iron ore with high phosphorus materials like rice husks or certain plant extracts during the smelting process. The result was a self-protecting alloy, its rust-resistant properties baked in from the moment of creation. But the true genius wasn't just in the ingredients, it was in the craftsmanship. The pillar's seamless construction, likely forged from a single mass of heated iron, shows an understanding of thermal dynamics and structural integrity that rivals modern engineering. Even more intriguing is the pillar's original purpose. Erected during the reign of King Chandragupta II, it may have served as a monumental flagstaff for a Vishnu temple, its rustlessness symbolizing divine immortality. The Sanskrit inscription speaks of a king who conquered the world, but today the pillar's real victory is over corrosion. Unlike the Parthenon or the Colosseum, which survive as ruins, this iron relic looks almost untouched by time, a silent rebuke to the assumption that ancient technology was primitive. The iron pillar's resilience raises a humbling question: how much advanced knowledge has been lost to history? While we credit modern science with breakthroughs in material durability, here stands proof that ancient artisans mastered concepts we're only now rediscovering. Perhaps the greatest lesson isn't in the chemistry, but in the humility it demands. After all, in a world of skyscrapers and space-age alloys, a 1600-year-old iron pillar still holds secrets we can't fully explain. In a dimly lit corner of the Cairo Museum, surrounded by golden sarcophagi and towering statues of pharaohs, sits an unassuming wooden artifact that might just rewrite the history of human flight. Discovered in 1898 during an excavation of a tomb near Saqqara, this 2,000-year-old carving, dubbed the Saqqara Bird, looks startlingly out of place among Egypt's typical relics of gods and animals. At just 7 inches long, it resembles neither a deity nor a creature, but something far more unexpected: the sleek silhouette of a modern aircraft, with its tapered wings, aerodynamic fuselage, and even what appears to be a vertical tail fin. This ancient object seems engineered for flight rather than ritual. When researchers subjected the Saqqara Bird to wind tunnel tests in recent decades, the results were astonishing. The artifact demonstrated lift-to-drag ratios comparable to those of early 20th century gliders, with its wings generating enough upward force to carry a lightweight model through the air. Some aviation experts argue that its design features like the angled wings and weighted body suggest an understanding of principles formalized millennia later by the Wright brothers. But here's the puzzle. The ancient Egyptians left no records of flight experiments, no blueprints for flying machines, no mention of this object's purpose. So what exactly were they trying to create? One school of thought insists it's merely a stylized bird, perhaps a ceremonial falcon representing the god Horus. After all, ancient artisans often blended realism with symbolism. Yet the Saqqara Bird lacks key avian features like feet, feathers, or a beak details prominent in other Egyptian bird carvings. Others propose it was a child's toy or a weather vane, but neither theory explains its precise aerodynamic properties. The most provocative idea, that it's a scaled-down model of a larger, functional glider, proof that ancient Egyptians dabbled in aviation centuries before humanity took to the skies. Supporting this bold claim are intriguing parallels from other cultures. The Nazca lines, for instance, include massive geoglyphs only visible from above, hinting at possible aerial perspectives. Ancient Indian texts describe flying machines called vimanas, complete with technical details about propulsion and navigation. Could the Saqqara Bird be part of a wider, lost tradition of early flight experimentation? Skeptics point out that no full-sized aircraft remnants have ever been found, but proponents counter that wood and lightweight materials wouldn't survive millennia of decay. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe the Saqqara Bird wasn't meant to fly at all, but was inspired by observations of natural gliders like seabirds or wind-borne seeds, an early attempt to harness nature's designs. Or perhaps it was a ritual object, its aerodynamic shape symbolizing the soul's ascent to the heavens. Whatever its purpose, this tiny wooden artifact forces us to confront the limits of our historical knowledge. If it was just a toy, why does it align so perfectly with principles we consider modern? And if it was more, What does that say about the ingenuity of a civilization we're only beginning to understand? The Saqqara Bird doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress, it dares us to reconsider what ancient minds might have envisioned. In a world where we've mapped genomes and probed distant planets, this humble carving remains grounded in mystery, waiting for the day we might finally decipher its true purpose. Until then, it hovers between history and speculation, a silent reminder that the past may hold more surprises than we've ever dreamed. Deep in the mineral-rich hills of California's Coso Mountains, two rockhounds made a discovery in 1961 that would ignite debates for decades to come. While cracking open what appeared to be an ordinary geode, a hollow rock lined with crystals, they found something that shouldn't have been there. Nestled inside the stone cavity was a metallic object bearing an uncanny resemblance to a 1920s-era spark plug, complete with a threaded base and ceramic insulator. But here's the catch: the surrounding rock was dated at 500,000 years old, a time when Homo sapiens hadn't even evolved, let alone mastered internal combustion. This bizarre contradiction earned the find its name, the Coso artifact, and launched one of archaeology's most persistent controversies. Geologists examining the specimen noted the outer layer wasn't just any rock, it was a concretion, formed when minerals slowly accumulate around an object over immense timescales. X-ray analysis revealed additional metallic components inside, including a copper-like core and what might have been a rusted iron shaft. The level of fossilization suggested the object had been encased for millennia, not mere decades. Yet the spark plug design matched champion models from the early 20th century, right down to the hexagonal shape. Skeptics argue it's a classic case of a modern object becoming embedded in older material through natural processes. Concretions can form relatively quickly under the right conditions, and California's mineral springs might have accelerated the petrification. Some even suggest it was a deliberate hoax, though the discoverers had no apparent motive or geological expertise to fake such a find. But the artifact's defenders point to anomalies that resist easy explanation. The ceramic insulator showed signs of extreme age, with weathering patterns inconsistent with a recent deposit. More puzzling still, the surrounding geode contained traces of rare earth metals in concentrations not typical for the region. Could this be evidence of a lost technological epoch? Ancient astronaut theorists speculate about advanced prehistoric civilizations wiped out by cataclysms, leaving only scattered artifacts behind. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss this as fantasy, yet the Coso artifact isn't alone. Similar out-of-place artifacts, or UPARTs, have surfaced worldwide, from the 2,000-year-old Antikythera Mechanism to the 300-million-year-old Russian microchip, a stone embedded with what looks like circuitry. What makes the Coso find unique is its combination of recognizable modern design and apparent antiquity, blurring the line between known history and unexplained anomalies. Perhaps the most compelling middle ground comes from material science. Some researchers propose the object was subjected to an unknown natural electrochemical process, transforming its surface into something resembling ancient stone while preserving its mechanical shape. Others suggest it might represent a previously undocumented type of mineral formation that coincidentally mimics human-made objects. Whatever the truth, the Coso artifact serves as a humbling reminder that Earth's geological record may still hold surprises capable of upending our assumptions about technological progress. Unlike clearer cases of fraud or misstating, this peculiar relic lingers in the gray area between mistake and mystery. It challenges us to ask, how would we recognize genuine evidence of a lost advanced culture if we found it? Would we dismiss it as impossible or dare to reconsider the timeline of human ingenuity? The spark plug in the stone offers no easy answers, only a spark of doubt about what we think we know of the past. High on the walls of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, a series of enigmatic carvings have ignited one of the most heated debates in Egyptology. Among the usual depictions of gods and rituals, one particular relief stands out: a strange, bulb-like object cradled by a towering figure, with what appears to be a snaking cable leading to a box or base. To the untrained eye, it looks uncannily like a modern light bulb, complete with filament and socket. Could this be evidence that ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity thousands of years before Volta or Edison? Proponents of the Dendera light theory point to the carvings striking parallels with electrical components. The bulb-shaped object contains a wavy line resembling a filament, while the cable connects to a device that some interpret as a power source, possibly a primitive battery akin to the Baghdad artifacts. Even more compelling are the temple's underground chambers, where traces of soot are conspicuously absent, unlike other Egyptian sites darkened by torch smoke. Could these spaces have been illuminated by electric lamps instead? Ancient astronaut theorists take it further, suggesting the technology was either a local innovation or a gift from advanced extraterrestrial visitors. Mainstream Egyptologists, however, offer a very different interpretation. They argue the relief depicts a mythological scene, the creation of the sun god Ra within a lotus flower, with the filament representing a sacred serpent emerging from its petals. The so-called cable is likely a symbolic staff or conduit for divine energy, a common motif in temple art. The absence of soot, they counter, might simply mean the chambers were lit by reflective surfaces or oil lamps with sophisticated ventilation. What makes the Dendera carving so fascinating isn't just the disagreement, it's the broader questions it raises about how we interpret ancient symbols. Human history is full of examples where modern minds project contemporary knowledge onto the past, mistaking allegory for literal technology. Yet it's equally possible that some civilizations stumbled upon discoveries later forgotten or suppressed. The Egyptians, after all, mastered astronomy, medicine, and engineering at levels that still astonish us. If they could align pyramids to true north or perform complex surgeries, is it so far-fetched to imagine they experimented with basic electrical principles? The truth may lie somewhere in between. While the Dendera relief almost certainly wasn't a technical blueprint, it might reflect observations of natural phenomena, like the electric glow of certain fish in the Nile or static sparks from polished stones. Or perhaps it encoded esoteric knowledge about energy forms we're only now beginning to understand. Whatever the case, the carving remains a testament to human imagination, bridging the gap between ancient myth and modern science. It challenges us to keep questioning, to stay open to possibilities, because sometimes the line between a sacred serpent and a light bulb is thinner than we think. In a remote cave high in the mountains of China's Bayan-Ha region, an archaeologist named Kai Pu-te made a discovery in 1938 that would fuel decades of speculation. Buried beneath layers of sediment were hundreds of stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter, with a hole at the center, strewn across the cave floor like forgotten coins. But what set these artifacts apart weren't their shapes. It was the bizarre spiral grooves carved into their surfaces, later revealed under magnification to be chains of microscopic hieroglyphs unlike any known writing system. According to fringe researchers who studied them decades later, these inscriptions told an astonishing story. 12,000 years ago, a spacecraft carrying beings called the Dropa crashed in the mountains. Stranded, they allegedly carved their tail onto the stones before eventually integrating with local tribes. The implications were staggering. If genuine, the Dropa stones would rewrite human history as proof of prehistoric extraterrestrial contact. Translations circulated by enthusiasts describe the Dropa as small, frail beings with large heads eerily similar to modern depictions of grey aliens. Even more tantalizing were reports that the stones themselves exhibited unusual electromagnetic properties and contained traces of cobalt and other metals uncommon in the region. But here's where the story fractures. Mainstream archaeologists point out glaring inconsistencies. The original discs vanished during World War II. The cave's location was never properly documented, and Kai Pu-te himself remains a shadowy figure with no verifiable academic credentials. The only evidence comes from grainy photos and second-hand accounts published in fringe magazines decades after the alleged discovery. Skeptics argue the entire tale is an elaborate hoax, possibly cobbled together from misinterpreted Neolithic artifacts and creative storytelling. Similar stone discs have been found across China, often identified as ritual objects or primitive tools by reputable scholars. The hieroglyphs, when examined by linguists, show no coherent patterns matching established ancient scripts, just random markings that could be natural wear or crude carvings. As for the electromagnetic anomalies, geologists note that certain mineral deposits can produce weak magnetic fields without extraterrestrial intervention. Yet the Dropa legend endures, fueled by our fascination with ancient mysteries and the possibility of lost interstellar connections. It's a cautionary tale about how easily myth can blur with archaeology when facts are scarce. The truth might lie buried in those inaccessible mountains, or perhaps it was never there at all. What remains is a question that lingers like the hum of a distant engine. In our hunger to uncover cosmic secrets, do we sometimes see what we want to see, or are there genuine enigmas still waiting in the dark? In the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul, a single sheet of parchment hides a geographical bombshell that has baffled historians for centuries. Known as the Piri Reis map, this stunning artifact from 1513 doesn't just chart the known world of its time, it seems to reveal lands no 16th century explorer could have possibly seen. Drawn by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, the map's most shocking feature is the southern landmass many believe to be Antarctica, depicted with startling precision along coastlines that have been buried under miles of ice for at least 6,000 years. The accuracy is downright eerie. Modern sonar surveys of Antarctica's subglacial topography match the map's contours with unnerving similarity, particularly the Queen Maud Land region. Rivers, mountains, and bays appear where we now know they exist underneath the ice. Even more perplexing, the map shows South America and Africa with near-perfect longitudinal proportions, a feat European cartographers wouldn't achieve for another 200 years. Piri Reis himself noted in the margins that he compiled the map from older sources, including charts dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Could this be a surviving fragment of ancient knowledge passed down from a civilization advanced enough to survey the planet before the last ice age? Skeptics argue the southern landmass might represent a distorted version of South America, or a lucky guess based on speculative geography common in Renaissance maps. Yet the map's critics struggle to explain how distortions accidentally align with realities hidden under Antarctica's ice sheet. Others propose that Piri Reis had access to accounts from seafarers who ventured farther south than recorded, perhaps even encountering ice-free stretches during a medieval warm period. But that still wouldn't account for the precision of features no human eye had seen for millennia. The most tantalizing theory involves the lost civilization of Atlantis or an even older seafaring culture. Ancient texts like Plato's dialogues speak of advanced navigators with global knowledge. while the map's inclusion of mythical creatures and notes about burning black stones, possibly coal, hint at forgotten exploratory voyages. Could fragments of their cartography have survived in libraries like Alexandria, only to be rediscovered by Ottoman scholars? What makes the Piri Reis map so mesmerizing isn't just its potential secrets, it's the humility it demands. In an age when we've mapped every inch of the globe, this 500-year-old parchment whispers that our history books might be missing chapters. Whether it's proof of prehistoric explorers, an astonishing coincidence, or something beyond our current understanding, one thing is clear: the past holds maps to worlds we're only beginning to imagine. Hidden beneath the quiet villages of China's Zhejiang province lies an underground marvel that challenges everything we know about ancient engineering: the Longyou caves. Discovered in 1992 when a curious farmer drained a local pond, these sprawling subterranean chambers weren't just dug haphazardly into the earth. They were carved with breathtaking precision over 2,000 years ago, their walls chiseled into smooth, angled surfaces that meet at perfect 90-degree corners. But the sheer scale is what staggers the imagination. Covering an area of over 30,000 square meters, this labyrinth of 24 caverns required the removal of nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone, enough to fill 40 Olympic-sized swimming pools. What makes the Longyou caves truly extraordinary isn't just their size but the inexplicable details. The walls and ceilings are adorned with uniform, parallel chisel marks, suggesting a level of craftsmanship typically reserved for temples or palaces, not underground spaces. Even more puzzling are the acoustic properties. Certain chambers amplify sound in ways that seem intentional, with echoes lingering like whispers in a cathedral. Some researchers speculate these sonic effects might have had ritual significance, perhaps used in ceremonies to create an otherworldly atmosphere. Yet no carvings, artifacts, or inscriptions have ever been found to hint at their purpose. The mystery deepens when you consider the logistics. How did ancient laborers, armed with nothing but bronze or iron tools, excavate and transport such massive volumes of stone without leaving behind piles of rubble? Modern engineers estimate the project would have required 1,000 workers laboring around the clock for 6 years, yet there's no historical record of such an undertaking. Local folklore speaks of immortal builders, while more pragmatic theories suggest the caves served as quarry sites, hiding places during wartime, or even ancient reservoirs. But none fully explain the meticulous design or the absence of debris. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in the cave's alignment. Some chambers mirror the shapes of surface structures from the same period, as if the underground network were an inverted reflection of a lost city above. Could this have been part of a grander cosmological design, linking Earth and heaven in a way we've yet to decipher? Or was it a utilitarian project whose true function faded from memory? Standing in these echoing halls, you're left with a humbling realization. Here lies a feat of engineering that defies both the technology and the priorities of its time. The Longyou caves don't just ask us to solve a riddle, they force us to question what ancient civilizations valued enough to invest such unimaginable effort. In a world where we've mapped the ocean floor and probed distant planets, these silent stone chambers remind us that some of history's greatest secrets are still buried, not in sand or soil, but in plain sight. Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica's Diquis Delta, a cluster of enigmatic stone spheres has puzzled explorers since the 1930s, when workers clearing land for banana plantations stumbled upon them. These aren't just ordinary rocks, they're near-perfect orbs, some as small as a grapefruit, others towering over 6 feet tall and weighing up to 16 tons. Carved from hard volcanic gabbro or granite, Their surfaces are so smooth and symmetrical that modern engineers struggle to explain how ancient artisans achieved such precision without metal tools or standardized measuring devices. What makes these spheres truly baffling is their geometric perfection. Laser scans reveal deviations of less than 2 millimeters in diameter, a level of accuracy that rivals machine-cut stone today. Even more intriguing is their distribution. Some sit in solitary grandeur, while others are arranged in precise alignments, straight lines, triangles, or even celestial patterns mirroring constellations. Archaeologists date them to between 300 BC and 1500 CE, crafted by the now-vanished Decode culture. But with no written records or oral traditions left behind, their purpose remains one of Central America's most enduring riddles. Theories about their use span the practical to the fantastical. Some researchers propose they were astronomical markers, their alignments tracking solstices or lunar cycles to guide agricultural rituals. Others suggest they symbolized power, their size and placement denoting the status of chieftains or clans. More speculative ideas link them to lost civilizations like Atlantis, pointing to their resemblance to stone balls found as far away as Bosnia and Easter Island as evidence of a global prehistoric culture. But the most compelling clue might lie in their craftsmanship. The Decode people had no wheels, no draft animals, and no known metal tools, yet they shaped these spheres by patiently pecking away at raw boulders with smaller stones, then polishing them with sand over generations. The real mystery isn't just how they were made, but why. Unlike pyramids or temples, these spheres served no obvious utilitarian function. Were they boundary markers for sacred sites, physical manifestations of celestial bodies, or perhaps communal projects meant to unite a society through shared labor? Modern attempts to replicate them using ancient techniques have yielded rough approximations, but none match the original's flawless form. The stones seem to mock our assumptions about primitive technology, standing as silent witnesses to a forgotten artistry. Today, many spheres have been looted or damaged, but those preserved in museums still radiate an eerie perfection. They challenge us to reconsider what ancient societies valued and what they might have known about geometry, astronomy, or even communal purpose that we've yet to grasp. In a world obsessed with function, these enigmatic orbs remind us that some creations defy explanation, their meaning as polished and elusive as their surfaces. Buried in the ruins of an ancient Assyrian palace in Nimrud, a small piece of polished rock crystal might just rewrite the history of optics. Discovered in 1850 by archaeologist Austin Henry Layard, the Nimrud lens, a 3,000-year-old oval-shaped artifact, looks unassuming at first glance. But when held up to light, its true purpose becomes clear. This thumb-sized disc, ground into a precise convex shape, can magnify objects with startling clarity. For something crafted centuries before the formal study of optics began, its existence raises a tantalizing question. Could this be evidence that the Assyrians were experimenting with telescopes long before Galileo turned his toward the heavens? The lens's craftsmanship is undeniably sophisticated. Made from natural rock crystal, it has a focal length of about 4.5 inches and could magnify up to 3 times, enough to sharpen details in cuneiform tablets or observe distant celestial bodies. What's even more remarkable is its optical quality. Under magnification, modern researchers found the lens had been ground to a near-perfect curvature, with only minor imperfections likely caused by wear over millennia. This wasn't a crude accident, it was the product of deliberate, precise work. Assyrian artisans, known for their intricate ivory carvings and metalwork, clearly understood how to manipulate light. But was it part of a telescope? Proponents of this theory point to the Assyrians' advanced astronomical knowledge. Their scribes meticulously tracked planetary movements and eclipses, and their mythology is steeped in celestial imagery. A lens like this could have been mounted in a wooden or metal tube, creating a rudimentary refracting telescope. If true, it would mean the Assyrians were observing Jupiter's moons or Saturn's rings over 2,000 years before European astronomers. Skeptics counter that no other telescope components have ever been found in Assyrian ruins, and the lens might have had more mundane uses. Some suggest it was a decorative inlay for furniture or jewelry, while others propose it was a fire-starting tool, using sunlight to ignite tinder. Yet the fire-starting theory doesn't fully explain the lens's optical precision. Why grind a crystal to such exacting standards if its only purpose was to concentrate light? And why was it found among royal artifacts in the Northwest Palace of Nimrud, a place steeped in scholarship and astronomy? The truth might lie somewhere in the middle. Perhaps the lens was a multifunctional tool used by scholars to study texts, by priests to observe the heavens, and by artisans for detailed work. Its very versatility could explain why no other examples have surfaced. It might have been a rare, prized possession, reserved for elite eyes only. What makes the Nimrud lens so captivating isn't just its potential uses, it's the implications for our understanding of ancient innovation. If the Assyrians were experimenting with magnification, what other optical secrets might they have uncovered? Could there have been an entire tradition of lens making that vanished when their empire fell? The artifact forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient science, reminding us that brilliance isn't confined to any one era. Whether a telescope component, a magnifying glass, or something else entirely, this tiny crystal disk proves that even 3 millennia ago, human curiosity was sharp enough to focus on the stars. In the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the great cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, lies a mystery that blurs the line between archaeology and science fiction. Excavations at this 4,000-year-old site uncovered something deeply unsettling: layers of fused green glass coating sections of brick and stone, as if the very fabric of the city had melted under unimaginable heat. This phenomenon, known as vitrification, is eerily similar to the effects observed at nuclear test sites like Trinity in New Mexico, where the desert sand was transformed into glass by the sheer force of atomic explosions. What could have caused such extreme temperatures in a Bronze Age city? Conventional explanations point to massive fires, perhaps sparked by invading armies or catastrophic accidents. Yet the patterns of destruction at Mohenjo-Daro don't quite fit typical fire damage. The vitrification isn't random, it's concentrated in specific areas, with some buildings appearing untouched while others seem flash burned from above. Even more puzzling are the skeletal remains found scattered in the streets, many with radiation-like burns and contorted in poses suggesting sudden, violent death. Some researchers argue these bodies were caught in an intense thermal event, one that struck so quickly there was no time to flee. Could this be evidence of an ancient nuclear explosion? The idea seems unthinkable, yet it's hard to ignore the parallels. Ancient Indian texts like the Mahabharata describe celestial weapons of terrifying power, blinding flashes, mushroom-shaped clouds, and rivers boiling with heat. One passage speaks of a projectile charged with the light of 1,000 suns, leaving survivors with hair and nails falling out, a chilling resemblance to radiation sickness. Skeptics dismiss these as poetic metaphors, but when paired with the physical evidence at Mohenjo-Daro, the narrative takes on a more unsettling tone. Mainstream archaeologists offer alternative theories. The vitrification could result from sustained fires fueled by the city's abundant wood and oil stores, with the glass forming under prolonged, intense heat. The skeletal remains might reflect a massacre or epidemic rather than a sudden cataclysm, and without traces of radioactive isotopes in the soil, a telltale sign of nuclear events, the atomic hypothesis remains speculative at best. Yet the mystery lingers. If this wasn't the work of some lost advanced technology, why does the destruction align so unnervingly with the aftermath of modern warfare? And why do so many ancient cultures share stories of world-ending fire from the skies? Whether the truth lies in forgotten science, natural disasters, or something beyond our current understanding, Mohenjo-Daro stands as a silent witness to a past that may hold secrets we're not yet ready to confront. The fused stones and scorched bones whisper a question we can't fully answer: what really happened to this once great city? High atop the windswept plains of Bolivia, the Tiwanaku Gate stands as a silent sentinel to a civilization lost to time. This towering stone arch, carved from a single block of andesite weighing over 10 tons, isn't just an architectural marvel, it's a riddle wrapped in celestial alignments and otherworldly imagery. At first glance, the gate's most striking feature is the intricate frieze at its center, a figure flanked by winged attendants, their faces turned skyward as if caught in mid-flight. But look closer and the mysteries multiply. The gate's precise alignment with the winter solstice sunrise suggests an advanced understanding of astronomy, while the 48 smaller figures surrounding the central deity are arranged in a pattern that some researchers believe mirrors the cycles of Venus. What sets the Tiwanaku Gate apart from other ancient monuments is the sheer audacity of its construction. The andesite used doesn't occur naturally at this altitude. It was quarried over 50 miles away, then transported across rugged terrain without wheels or draft animals. Even more baffling are the gate's razor-straight edges and perfectly square corners, achieved with tools that archaeologists still can't definitively identify. Local Aymara legends speak of a time when the stones moved themselves, guided by the music of celestial giants. While modern science dismisses this as myth, the absence of tool marks or trial and error adjustments on the gate's surface leaves even skeptics questioning how such precision was possible. Then there's the gate's most controversial aspect, its alleged function as a portal. The central figure, often identified as the Andean creator god Viracocha, is depicted holding what appear to be rods or energy conduits, his head radiating lines resembling modern depictions of electromagnetic fields. This has led theorists like Erich von Däniken to propose the gate was a stargate, a device for interdimensional travel or communication with extraterrestrial beings. Others argue it served as a symbolic threshold between worlds, used in rituals where priests channeled divine energy. The gate's alignment with solstices and celestial events supports the idea that it functioned as both a calendar and a sacred interface, bridging the earthly and cosmic realms. Yet for all the speculation, the Tiwanaku civilization left no written records to explain their masterpiece. By the time the Inca rose to power, Tiwanaku was already a ruin, its builders long vanished. The gate's true purpose might lie somewhere between the practical and the mystical, a tool for marking time, a temple for worship, or even a repository of encoded knowledge. What's undeniable is its enduring power to captivate. Standing before it, you're left with the eerie sense that this isn't just a relic of the past, but a message one we're still struggling to decode. Whether a portal to the gods or a testament to human ingenuity, the Tiwanaku Gate refuses to surrender its secrets, challenging us to reconsider not just ancient technology, but the very nature of reality itself. Buried beneath the sands of southern Iraq, the Ubaid culture left behind artifacts so bizarre they seem ripped from the pages of science fiction. Dating back 7,000 years, predating even the Sumerians, these clay figurines depict humanoid figures with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and unmistakably reptilian features. Their slender bodies often cradle infants with the same eerie characteristics, while some stand poised in postures that suggest ritual or authority. Unlike the stylized gods of later Mesopotamian civilizations, these lizardmen feel unsettlingly specific, as if modeled after something or someone the artisans had actually witnessed. What makes these figurines so perplexing isn't just their appearance but their cultural context. The Ubaid people were among the first to practice irrigation and build permanent settlements, laying the groundwork for Mesopotamia's rise. Their art typically featured naturalistic depictions of animals and fertility symbols, making the lizardmen stand out as radical anomalies. Were these objects purely symbolic, representing water deities or sea chthonic spirits tied to the marshy Tigris-Euphrates delta? Or could they hint at something more profound, an early encounter with an unknown humanoid species, or even the remnants of a lost branch of human evolution? Mainstream archaeology leans toward symbolic interpretation, linking the figures to shamanistic traditions or early attempts to personify natural forces. Reptiles, after all, held dual significance in ancient cultures, symbols of regeneration due to their skin shedding, but also of danger and the unknown. Yet the figurine's anatomical consistency raises questions. Unlike the exaggerated features of mythical beings in later art, the Ubaid lizardmen display coherent, almost clinical reptilian traits: slit pupils, scaled textures, and pronounced shoulders that lack human collarbones. This precision has led alternative researchers to speculate about genetic memory or even ancient contact with an advanced reptilian civilization, a trope popularized in fringe theories. Another tantalizing angle involves the possibility of real-world inspiration. Could the Ubaid people have encountered a now extinct hominid species with reptilian adaptations, or were they depicting individuals with genetic conditions or ritual body modifications? Some scholars note similarities between the figurines' heads and those of prehistoric skulls found in Peru, artificially elongated through cradle boarding, a practice tied to status or spirituality. But without written records or DNA evidence, these remain speculative leaps. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the figurines' distribution. They've been found in domestic settings, suggesting they weren't hidden cult objects but part of daily life. Some cradle infants, hinting at a role in fertility rites, while others wield tools or weapons, implying societal roles. This blend of the mundane and the fantastical blurs the line between art and documentary. Were these talismans meant to invoke protection, or portraits of beings the Ubaid genuinely believed walked among them? The Ubaid lizardmen resist easy categorization, standing at the crossroads of archaeology, mythology, and the unexplained. They challenge us to consider how ancient cultures might have interpreted the boundaries between human, animal, and divine. In their silent, slit-eyed gaze, we're confronted with a truth as slippery as the creatures they resemble. Some mysteries weren't meant to be solved, only pondered. And in that pondering, we glimpse the vast, uncharted terrain of our own past. Perched high above the city of Cusco, the zigzagging walls of Sacsayhuamán stand as a testament to Inca engineering so precise it borders on the supernatural. These massive limestone blocks, some weighing as much as 300 tons equivalent to 200 cars, fit together with seams so tight that not even a razor blade can slide between them. No mortar was used, yet the stones have withstood centuries of earthquakes that leveled Spanish colonial buildings below. The walls curve in perfect harmony with the landscape, their interlocking shapes forming a pattern so intricate it looks like the work of a divine stonemason. How did the Incas achieve such precision with nothing but bronze and stone tools? Mainstream archaeology suggests they used a technique called ashlar masonry, painstakingly shaping each block by trial and error until it locked seamlessly into place. But the sheer scale of these stones defies practicality. Some blocks have as many as 12 angles, each cut to align perfectly with neighboring stones, a feat that would require impossible levels of measurement and adjustment without modern technology. This has led to theories that the Incas possessed lost knowledge, perhaps even techniques that sound like science fiction. One of the most tantalizing ideas involves sound or vibration-based levitation. Local legends speak of a plant extract that could soften stone, allowing workers to mold it like clay. Spanish chroniclers recorded Inca stories of songs that made boulders float into position. While this seems fantastical, experiments with acoustic levitation using sound waves to suspend objects show it's theoretically possible, if not on this scale. Another hypothesis suggests the Incas used some form of anti-gravity, manipulating unseen forces to move these megaliths. Equally mysterious is the site's purpose. The Spanish believed it was a fortress, citing its strategic hilltop position and towering walls. Yet the zigzag design, mirroring the shape of lightning, a sacred symbol to the Incas, hints at a ceremonial role. Some researchers argue Sacsayhuamán was an astronomical observatory, with its walls aligning to solstices and celestial events. The underground tunnels beneath the complex add another layer of intrigue, possibly serving as ritual passageways or repositories of hidden knowledge. Perhaps the most humbling aspect of Sacsayhuamán isn't just the how, but the why. Why invest such unimaginable effort into moving and shaping these stones with near impossible precision? Unlike the pyramids built as tombs for pharaohs or Roman aqueducts designed for utility, Sacsayhuamán's purpose feels deliberately enigmatic. Was it a statement of power, a sacred cipher, or a technology we've yet to comprehend? The Incas left no written records, only these silent stones, a puzzle cut so perfectly that even time hasn't worn it down. Standing before these walls, you're left with a singular thought. Some secrets aren't meant to be solved, only witnessed. Imagine navigating the open ocean under a sky choked with clouds, no land in sight for weeks, yet somehow knowing exactly where the sun hid behind the gloom. For the Vikings, this wasn't just a feat of intuition. It was science harnessed through a deceptively simple crystal known as the sunstone. Mentioned in Norse sagas like the Röðulfsþáttur, these translucent stones were said to reveal the sun's position even in complete overcast, guiding longships across the North Atlantic with uncanny accuracy. For centuries, historians dismissed these accounts as myth until modern researchers put Icelandic spar, a type of calcite crystal, to the test. The results were staggering. When held toward the sky, the crystal's unique property of double refraction splits light into two beams. By rotating the stone until the beam's intensity matched, Viking navigators could pinpoint the sun's location within a few degrees, even at twilight or through dense fog. This wasn't just clever use of natural materials. It was optics mastered centuries before the principles of polarization were formally understood. Icelandic spar's effectiveness is so precise that a 21st century study published in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society confirmed it could outperform modern magnetic compasses under certain conditions. The implications rewrite what we thought we knew about Viking exploration. With nothing but a crystal, wooden ships, and celestial knowledge, they reached North America 500 years before Columbus, a feat that suddenly makes far more sense when you realize their navigation tools were leagues ahead of their time. But here's the real mystery. How did the Vikings discover this technology? Calcite crystals aren't rare, but recognizing their navigational potential requires an understanding of light's behavior that shouldn't have existed in the 9th century. One theory suggests trial and error. Perhaps navigators noticed the crystal's light-splitting properties during experiments with gemstones traded from Iceland. Others propose the knowledge was borrowed from Arab scholars who were pioneering optics around the same period. Yet there's no direct evidence of such a cultural exchange, leaving the sunstone's origins as enigmatic as the Vikings themselves. What's often overlooked is the sophistication of the system surrounding the sunstone. It wasn't used in isolation. Norse sagas describe navigators combining it with horizon boards, wooden discs marked with celestial bearings, and a deep knowledge of wave patterns, bird flight paths, and star positions. This wasn't just a tool, it was part of an integrated navigation network, a blend of empirical observation and cutting-edge tech for its era. The sunstone's true brilliance lies in its simplicity. Unlike fragile astrolabes or magnetic compasses prone to interference, it worked in rain, fog, or the perpetual twilight of Arctic summers. Modern attempts to replicate Viking voyages using sunstones have proven their reliability, but they've also revealed something deeper. The sunstone wasn't just a navigational aid, it was a cultural keystone, embodying the Viking ethos of practicality fused with ingenuity. In a world where we rely on satellites and GPS, it's easy to forget that humanity once charted the unknown with crystals and courage. The sunstone forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Ancient peoples didn't just stumble upon their achievements, they engineered them with a precision that still commands respect. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they used the sunstone, but what else they knew that we've yet to rediscover. As the crystal's polarized light cuts through the fog of history, it illuminates not just the sun's hidden position, but the gaps in our own understanding of the past. The Vikings didn't just sail blindly into the unknown, they brought the sky itself to heel with a tool as elegant as it was revolutionary. And in that light, their sagas stop sounding like legends and start reading like manuals. Buried beneath the dusty hills of southeastern Turkey, the Göbekli Tepe megaliths aren't just another archaeological site, they're a time capsule that shatters everything we thought we knew about human history. Dating back 12,000 years, this sprawling complex of massive stone pillars predates Stonehenge by a staggering 6 millennia, and even more astonishingly, it was built before the invention of agriculture or pottery. That's right, the people who erected these monuments were hunter-gatherers, living in a world where farming, cities, and writing were still thousands of years in the future. Yet somehow they carved, transported, and arranged 20-ton limestone pillars into precise circular formations, decorating them with intricate reliefs of foxes, scorpions, and vultures. What makes Göbekli Tepe so revolutionary isn't just its age, it's what it implies about the origins of civilization. For decades, historians believed complex societies emerged only after humans settled down to farm, freeing up time for art, religion, and large-scale projects. But here's the twist: Göbekli Tepe turns that theory on its head. Its construction would have required hundreds of workers, a level of organization previously deemed impossible for nomadic peoples. The site's pillars, some standing 16 feet tall, are arranged in rings with central pillars shaped like abstract human figures, their arms carved in relief as if frozen in ceremonial gesture. This isn't just primitive art, it's evidence of a shared belief system, a proto-religion that united scattered bands of hunter-gatherers in a common purpose. Then there's the mystery of its burial. Around 8000 BCE, someone deliberately entombed the entire site under thousands of tons of soil, preserving it like a time capsule. Why, some researchers speculate it was part of a ritual closure, a symbolic death of a sacred space. Others suggest the builders feared its power or sought to protect it from invaders. Whatever the reason, the burial acted as a perfect seal, leaving the carvings unnervingly crisp, as if the hands that chiseled them had just stepped away. The implications ripple far beyond archaeology. If hunter-gatherers could coordinate such a project, what else were they capable of? Could their oral traditions have preserved knowledge we've since forgotten? The animal carvings might hold clues. Some scholars interpret the vultures as part of a sky burial ritual, while the snakes and foxes could symbolize early mythologies. Even the pillars' alignment with celestial events hints at an advanced understanding of the stars. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just rewrite history, it forces us to humble ourselves before the ingenuity of our ancestors. These weren't primitive people stumbling toward progress, they were visionaries who shaped stone and society in ways we're only beginning to grasp. As excavations continue, each layer of dust reveals deeper questions. Who were these builders? What compelled them to create such a monument? And most haunting of all, what other chapters of our past remain buried, waiting to shake the foundations of what we think we know? Carved from solid basalt and weighing up to 40 tons each, the Olmec colossal heads of ancient Mexico are more than just sculptures, they're a riddle carved in stone. Towering over 3 meters tall, these 17 known heads bear features so strikingly distinct that they've fueled debates for over a century. Broad noses, full lips, and flattened facial profiles unlike typical Mesoamerican depictions. Mainstream archaeologists insist they're masterpieces of the Olmec civilization, the so-called mother culture of Central America, dating back to around 900 BCE. Yet the sheer uniqueness of their visages has led some to propose a far more radical idea. Could these heads depict visitors from across the Atlantic, perhaps even travelers from Africa? The evidence for an African connection is tantalizing but contentious. Advocates point to the head's physiognomy, which bears a resemblance to certain West African ethnic groups, and note that the Olmecs flourished during the same era as the Nubian kingdom of Kush. Could transoceanic voyages have occurred millennia before Columbus? Proponents cite the presence of New World crops like maize in ancient African pollen records, and the discovery of pre-Columbian cocaine metabolites in Egyptian mummies as potential proof of contact. Yet skeptics counter that the head's features could just as easily represent indigenous traits, exaggerated for artistic or symbolic purposes. After all, the Olmecs also sculpted jaguar-like deities and infant-faced figurine styles that clearly weren't meant to be literal portraits. What's often overlooked is the logistical brilliance behind these monoliths. The basalt used for the heads was quarried from the Tuxtla Mountains, over 80 kilometers from the Olmec heartland of La Venta and San Lorenzo. Transporting these multi-ton blocks without wheels or draft animals would have required ingenious techniques, possibly using rafts along rivers and rollers over land. The carvers themselves left no written records, but the heads' individualized helmets and ear ornaments hint at a deeper meaning. Some researchers believe they depict revered rulers or ball players, their headgear symbolizing authority or ceremonial attire. Others argue they're memorials to deified ancestors, their closed lips forever guarding the secrets of Olmec cosmology. The mystery deepens when you consider the head's fate. Many were deliberately buried or mutilated, their noses smashed and surfaces defaced, an act that might have been part of ritual killing to neutralize their power during political upheavals. This intentional destruction suggests the heads held immense significance, whether as political symbols or sacred objects. Yet without deciphered Olmec writing, their true purpose remains locked in those stony gazes. Modern DNA studies add another layer to the puzzle. Genetic analysis of Olmec remains shows no direct African ancestry, but some scholars argue that evidence could have been lost to time or limited sampling. Meanwhile, indigenous oral traditions in Mexico speak of bearded foreigners arriving by sea, while West African griots tell of ancient voyages to distant lands. Are these mere myths or fragmented memories of real encounters? The Olmec heads defy easy categorization. They could be masterful indigenous art, evidence of forgotten global connections, or something even more profound, a testament to the universal human impulse to immortalize the face of power in stone. What's certain is that they challenge us to rethink the boundaries of ancient cultures. In their silent, weathered features, we're forced to confront a simple but humbling truth. The past is far stranger and far more interconnected than we've been taught to believe. Whether products of local genius or global exchange, these colossal sentinels remind us that history's pages aren't just written, they're carved, and sometimes they're carved in ways we're still struggling to read. Standing sentinel on the windswept slopes of Easter Island, the Moai statues aren't just stone giants, they're a silent challenge to everything we assume about ancient engineering. Carved from compressed volcanic ash between 1200 and 1600 CE, these towering figures average 13 feet tall and weigh as much as 80 tons, equivalent to a fully loaded semi-truck. But the real miracle isn't their size. It's the fact that they were moved up to 11 miles across jagged lava fields and rolling hills without wheels, pulleys, or even large animals to assist. For centuries, their transport seemed impossible, fueling wild speculation from alien intervention to lost Atlantean technology. Yet recent experiments by archaeologists and engineers suggest the answer might be far simpler, yet no less ingenious. The statues may have walked. In 2012, researchers Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo proposed a radical theory. By lashing ropes around a replica Moai's base and rhythmically rocking it side to side with coordinated tugs, they demonstrated that a small team could walk the statue forward in a shuffling motion. The method mirrors how we move a bulky refrigerator by tilting it slightly from one corner to another, except scaled up to a monolithic level. Local Rapa Nui oral traditions had long spoken of the statues moving with mana, or spiritual energy, which some now interpret as metaphorical descriptions of this kinetic process. But skeptics argue the technique risks damaging the statue's bases, noting that ancient roads show no signs of the scuff marks such movement would leave. Alternative theories abound. Some researchers point to the island's network of prepared roads, lined with parallel grooves that could have served as tracks for wooden sledges or rollers. Others propose a system of log rails where the Moai were dragged atop greased palm trunks, a method used elsewhere in Polynesia. The most dramatic hypothesis involves upright transport, with the statues stabilized by a massive wooden frame called a Y-shaped sledge, as depicted in one 19th century engraving by islanders. Each explanation has merits, but none fully account for the sheer scale of the operation. Moving hundreds of Moai would have required not just muscle, but an orchestrated social effort, thousands of workers coordinating under a shared vision. What's often overlooked is the cultural context behind these feats. The Moai weren't just engineering projects, they were sacred conduits embodying the spirits of ancestral chiefs. Their placement on stone platforms called who facing inland wasn't arbitrary. It was a deliberate act of protection, with the ancestors watching over their descendants. This spiritual imperative may explain why the Rapa Nui invested such staggering effort. When resources grew scarce and the island's ecosystem collapsed from deforestation, the statue building ceased abruptly, leaving nearly half the Moai abandoned in quarries mid-carving. The Moai's true lesson isn't just about how they moved, but why. In a world without cranes or hydraulics, human ingenuity and collective will achieve what seems impossible today. Whether they walked, slid, or were carried on the backs of faith, These stone giants stand as monuments to a civilization that refused to be limited by the tools of its time. Their silent gaze asks us a humbling question. If they could move mountains with nothing but ropes and resolve, what might we accomplish if we dared to think differently? Buried in the quiet earth of Romania's Tartaria region, 3 small clay tablets whisper a secret that could upend the entire timeline of human communication. Discovered in 1961 alongside ancient human remains, these unassuming artifacts carved with intricate symbols resembling animals, abstract shapes, and what look like rudimentary letters date back to an astonishing 5,300 BC. That's over 2,000 years before the first known Sumerian cuneiform, long considered the birthplace of writing. If these markings aren't just decorative, if they carry intentional meaning, then everything we've been taught about the dawn of written language might be wrong. The symbols themselves are tantalizingly complex. One tablet bears a series of lines and dots arranged in rows, almost like an early form of notation. Another shows what could be a horned animal alongside geometric patterns, while the third displays a sequence of symbols that some researchers argue resemble later Voiņiș script, a Neolithic proto-writing system found across southeastern Europe. Unlike random scratches or artistic flourishes, these marks appear deliberate, repeated across multiple tablets with slight variations, hinting at a system rather than isolated doodles. The question isn't just what they say, it's whether they say anything at all. Are these the remnants of a lost language, a sacred code, or something in between? Mainstream archaeology remains deeply divided. Skeptics argue the symbols are proto-writing at best mnemonic devices for rituals or trade, not true script capable of conveying complex ideas. They point to similar symbols found on pottery and figurines from the Voiņiș culture, suggesting they were decorative or symbolic rather than linguistic. But proponents of the writing theory counter with the tablet's context. Found near an altar-like structure, they may have served a ceremonial function, perhaps recording names, prayers, or even early laws. The clustering of symbols in lines, much like later writing systems, is hard to dismiss as mere coincidence. What makes the Tartaria tablets so electrifying isn't just their age, it's the implication that writing might have arisen independently in multiple places, only for some versions to vanish without a trace. If the Sumerians weren't the first to codify language, who were these enigmatic people of the Danube Valley? The Voiņiș culture associated with the tablets was remarkably advanced for its time, with evidence of metalworking, large-scale settlements, and even what might be the world's earliest known metallurgical furnace. Could they have also pioneered symbolic communication, only for their knowledge to be lost in the upheavals of migration or environmental change? The debate takes a stranger turn when you consider parallels with other ancient symbols. Some of the Tartaria markings bear uncanny resemblance to early Cretan hieroglyphs and even Indus Valley script, though separated by thousands of years and miles. Could these be fragments of a once widespread system that fractured into regional variants? Or do they reflect universal human tendencies to create symbols for counting, ownership, or the divine? Without a bilingual inscription or a larger corpus of texts, decoding the tablets may be impossible, but their very existence forces us to reconsider the linear narrative of progress. Perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the tablets represent a dead end, a writing system that flickered into existence and then vanished, leaving no descendants. History is littered with such experiments, from Rongorongo of Easter Island to the undeciphered symbols of the Indus Valley. The Tartaria tablets might be another ghost script, a glimpse of what could have been. Or they might be the first chapter in a story we're only beginning to uncover, waiting for another discovery to unlock their meaning. For now, these tiny clay fragments sit at the crossroads of archaeology and speculation. They challenge us to admit how much we don't know about the ingenuity of our ancestors. In a world where we've digitized language into beams of light, it's humbling to think that the first whispers of writing might lie buried not in the grand cities of Mesopotamia, but in the quiet earth of a Romanian field, still holding their secrets after 7,000 years. Nestled in the fossil collection of the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas, the London hammer remains one of the most hotly contested artifacts in the debate over ancient human ingenuity. Discovered in 1936 by hikers near the town of London, Texas, this seemingly ordinary tool, a wooden handle fused to an iron hammerhead, wouldn't raise eyebrows if not for the astonishing context of its discovery. Encased in a solid chunk of Cretaceous-era limestone estimated to be over 100 million years old, the hammer's existence defies conventional timelines of human history. If authentic, it suggests that an advanced toolmaker walked the earth long before Homo sapiens evolved, let alone mastered metallurgy. The hammer's design only deepens the puzzle. Microscopic analysis reveals the iron head is unusually pure, lacking the slag inclusions typical of 19th-century blacksmithing. Metallurgists note its composition resembles high-quality iron alloys produced in modern foundries, not the crude wrought iron of early industrial tools. Even more baffling is the wood handle partially turned to coal, a process that normally requires millions of years of geological pressure. Creationists argue this petrification proves the hammer's ancient origins, while mainstream geologists counter that the concretion process can sometimes fossilize objects rapidly under specific mineral-rich conditions. Skeptics propose the hammer might be a 19th-century miner's tool that became embedded in soluble limestone, which then hardened around it over decades rather than millennia. They point to similar cases where modern objects like spark plugs or coins have been found encased in rock due to natural cementation. Yet the hammer's discoverers insist the surrounding rock showed no signs of recent disturbance, and the artifact was buried too deeply for casual deposition. The debate takes a philosophical turn when considering what the hammer represents. If it truly predates known human civilization, who forged it? Ancient astronaut theorists speculate about lost advanced cultures or extraterrestrial visitors, while others suggest it could be evidence of time travelers, though these ideas venture far beyond mainstream scholarship. More grounded researchers hypothesize the hammer might be a rare example of a limonite concretion, a natural geological formation that coincidentally mimics a man-made object. However, the tool's precise symmetry and functional design make this explanation feel unsatisfactory to many. What makes the London hammer so compelling isn't just the mystery of its origin, it's the questions it forces us to confront about scientific rigidity. Are we too quick to dismiss anomalies that challenge established timelines, or does the burden of proof rightly rest on those making extraordinary claims? The hammer sits at the intersection of geology, archaeology, and folklore, a silent challenge to our understanding of progress. Whether a misdated relic, a geological fluke, or something far more enigmatic, it reminds us that history's ledger may still have missing pages waiting to be uncovered, or perhaps waiting for us to reconsider what we think we know. From celestial computers to self-healing concrete, these 28 ancient technologies shatter the illusion that history moved in a straight line from primitive to advanced. Each discovery we've explored, whether the Antikythera Mechanism's celestial precision, Damascus steel's nanostructures, or the Nazca line's aerial artistry, paints a picture of civilizations that achieved brilliance outside the timeline we've been taught. Some innovations, like Roman concrete, were so effective they've outlasted their modern counterparts, Others, like the Baghdad batteries, hint at knowledge that vanished into the sands of time, leaving us to wonder what else might have been lost. The deeper we dig, the more these artifacts blur the boundaries between myth and reality. Were the Olmec heads portraits of distant travelers, or simply artistic expressions of a forgotten culture? Did the Saqqara bird symbolize flight, or was it a child's toy? The answers remain elusive, but the questions themselves are a gift. They push us to rethink the capabilities of ancient minds. Perhaps the most humbling realization is how many of these technologies still stump modern scientists. We can't fully replicate Damascus steel's metallurgy, nor can we explain how the Great Pyramid's builders aligned it to true north with such pinpoint accuracy. These aren't just curiosities, they're challenges to our assumptions about progress. What's especially fascinating is how these breakthroughs emerged independently across the globe. From the sunstones of Viking navigators to the acoustic wonders of the Longyou caves, human ingenuity flared up in isolated pockets, often without any apparent connection. It makes you wonder, was there a shared spark of inspiration, or did necessity drive these cultures to similar solutions? And if so, what does that say about the universal potential of human creativity? Theories about these technologies range from the pragmatic to the extraordinary. Some scholars argue they're proof of lost civilizations with advanced knowledge, while others attribute them to the sheer persistence of trial and error. A few even speculate about influences beyond our understanding, whether extraterrestrial or interdimensional, but perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Maybe ancient people simply saw the world differently, unburdened by the limits of what we now consider possible. Their achievements remind us that innovation isn't just about tools, it's about imagination. As we wrap up this journey, consider this: every one of these artifacts was once dismissed as impossible until it wasn't. The past has a way of surprising us, revealing layers of complexity we never anticipated. So, which of these mysteries resonates with you? Is it the haunting precision of the Piri Reis map, the eerie potential of the Dendera light, or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts below. We'd love to keep the conversation going. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into history's unsolved puzzles, hit that subscribe button. The past isn't done with us yet. Who knows what other secrets lie buried, waiting for the right moment to come